here's a good Halloween trick. Buy a bunch of Reese's. There you go. Turn off all the lights in your house. Yeah. And then just don't answer the door.
I say that I'm fine with every breath of mine. This regret, it leaves another bitter taste. Yeah. Where's the sunshine, but only when I slip and make a new mistake? 'Cause I hate the feeling it's all a waste. If I could count away my fate with this blade, I would. If that let me restart. But something tells me if that happened, I might not see you there. I'm only held by the limit inside my soul. The voice in my heart, I trust it will break the mold that it holds. It will never end, may it never end. No matter what's in store, we must be faster. 'Cause right now there's no more time. I fear at this rate the world will leave us behind. And so I wonder how long I have left with
Don't worry, I don't know what sleep schedule is either.
I
I mean, hey, at least you bright up and early to do stuff.
Don't give me a silver lining.
Oh, which it's in the Twitch channel or YouTube? I actually didn't look at it for that. I hope up Twitch done. SAO-RPG. What's up Twitch?
Oh, we have viewers? Heck yeah.
What the? Okay, then what's floor 29? I'm curious. Floor 29. You fragment. Okay, that makes sense. I noticed that Neo's working on something for floor 29. I was very surprised.
Ooh, yes. Actually went over with them.
Oh, they can?
Ooh.
Sorry, yeah, I wanted these things. Don't worry, we're totally professionals. We discussed everything beforehand. This is all planned. Sorry, this is all part of it.
No, I don't think I've spoken directly with Hestia about it before, but Neo actually came to me a couple weeks ago or so with an idea for a boss, and we did some back and forth, developed some stuff. It's
I've seen the work. It looks pretty nice.
yeah, it is, you know, posted up in the staff section for review. It was a concept for a later floor, like you said. They were looking for it to be like maybe floor 29 to fit with that theme for what we've kind of got rough ideas for future Clinton floors. But yeah, they did a really great job with it. I think it looks great. So.
Personally, for myself, I'm a little more excited for floor 28, but that's because I'm just in love with that, with what its conceptually is meant to be. This is the whole element that I'm pretty sure everyone's very familiar with, if they pay the fantasy that much.
I'm gonna have to pull that up. I don't remember what the concept for 28 is looking like. That's not a canon floor, is it?
Nope. I think the next canon floor is something in the 30s. I don't know canon floors that well, obviously. But Taps is 11. Panamesa is 24.
And then we just had 22, which was our happy peaceful floor, which was much bigger in canon.
I mean, we did some good work with it.
Alright guys, we are back with another season of the Sword Art Podcast. And my two lucky slaves for this introduction are the wonderful staff members that I have acquired. Guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Well, I guess I'm slave number 1, Hestia. How are y'all doing?
Wow. Hi, it's Teion. What's up?
AKA slave number 2. So we've actually got a lot of information to talk about today. Just going through over the the document we've got set up. There is
Listen.
quite a lot of interesting topics, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, most likely. I understand we sold our souls to be staff members to Aaron, but don't need to officialize the statement by calling us slaves.
I mean, I'm just following the boss's orders.
Makes sense.
So, before we start off today, hey, Commander Root, thanks for the follow. Stay tuned later on. Glad to see that's finally working. But anyways, before we get actually started, I do want to say if you have any questions, comments, concerns, discussions you want to see us have, go ahead and type those out in the chat and we'll add those on. And we'll, when we get to that portion of the show, we will discuss them. Alright.
Yeah, if you got any questions, send them in as fast as possible.
Absolutely. So,
Q&A.
yeah, exactly. It's very interactive. But so, getting started here, we have former PST member Neo that started up the Weekly Link. What are your guys' thoughts on seeing as far as that's been going?
I'm absolutely in love with the fact that Neo has put in the work to do a weekly link that includes an actual riddle for every week it's done. I'm not smart enough to do riddles, so I never attempt those, but those are more academically inclined. I wish you luck.
Yeah, kind of newsletter thing is really nice. It's definitely something that we have lacked. Something I wouldn't have thought that we needed, but now that we have something like that, it's really nice to keep everybody in the loop of something new that might have popped up that got missed. Announcements and such, and getting word around has kind of been an issue before, so having something on a regular basis coming out with just like, well, what the heck is going on this week? Who's new? What's going on? That's pretty nice.
Alright, that's actually very nice, just to see that kind of interaction, too. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's Neo putting in all the work for mentioning players who are new, players who come back, who are back in action, like Mina was, and Kosan and others. That's always very nice to see. Some old members coming back.
Yeah.
And then you also have the fact that he's mentioning open threads, which are lacking sometimes. So the fact that he's mentioning every open thread that kind of gets put out there, kind of promoting that whole thing is awesome.
Yeah, just the fact that he's got the Ask Neo and the different sections in that really makes it more community-oriented, which is wonderful. We recently did have an overhaul. We shift all our announcements to blog sections, and so we have a lot more organized, and I think we're going to try to transition our site guides to that, just to put it all in a more organized situation. What would you guys say if we did that switch and took everything from the tutorial subform and actually put a blog section for it?
Personally, for myself, I would not think that's the best idea for it, because when it comes to the whole blog thing, if you look on the side, the newer ones get buried kind of quickly, considering we have a weekly link now. So
well, I mean, those are all recent. In that sidebar, those are all recent blogs and admin. But I can actually add another blog section for tutorials. But if I don't think there's going to be a need to do that, because you can just go to blogs, and then you can see tutorials right there on the bat, and navigate it that way.
I think that's the way we currently have it. It's good enough where people can just easily navigate through the entire tutorials by themselves, without needing like a whole blog section dedicated for it, because it's very easy to find most of the things without any problems. Of course, it needs some tweaking here and there for some of the things in the tutorials, either being outdated or not perfectly formatted, but that's just the fact that we're humans. We'll mess up, obviously.
Right, that's bound
But
to
yeah,
happen. But
in a
like,
sense,
yeah, it's
in
just
my opinion, as it is now, it's pretty good
okay.
for what we're having it be as for right now.
Right. So I did notice some people started using the guild section too a little bit more. Neo actually recently made a guild and is using that. Have you guys had any chance to play around with that that kind of stuff?
Sadly, for myself, no, because I'm not a guild leader. That's more that's our guild leader Jome, who's more so busy dealing with IRL stuff, so he's not been around as much, sadly. Yeah, I personally can't do much of it at the moment, so
Yeah, I don't think either of us has been too involved with the functionality of the guilds page, but we are both of us are actually in the Holy Dragon Alliance. So I have seen the guild pages. Um, it's nice. It's definitely a place that you can go to keep all of your guild stuff, to organize any events, to keep things in a central location that before we established that, really we didn't have much. We had that guild sub forum, but it was the same as a thread, and um I do like the feel of the what is it, the I think it's called the clubs section on the site that we're using for the guilds right now.
It's
I
actually
like
we
it a
actually
little bit
renamed
better
it
than the
guilds,
forums.
so it's not clubs.
Ooh,
It's
perfect.
clubs on on our World Seed site, but that's because I'm not over there to do any deving.
Yeah, got it.
also Psychotic FX92 in the chat has the idea when it comes to tutorials. Control F is your friend.
Well, no, the best part about guilds is that each of them has their own leader role, and then each of those leaders can give out moderator roles, which I think is pretty cool.
I think the best part about having a guild space where you can talk, if you don't have a Discord for it, it's usually a very amazing place to just get talk ideas and events you want to happen for in your guild.
Right.
Current guild events are happening that I know of. Well, obviously the Celestial Ascendants are having their Fall from Grace thread where they're disbanded afterwards. And Strider's Guild is dealing with a personal loss. Iados, in character, has jumped off Aincrad and committed suicide.
Yeah, I did hear that. That was kind of sad. I had to update the Fallen records.
Yeah. So Strider's Guild is obviously dealing with some very distraught and heavy emotions right now. They're even having a funeral for Iados in character.
No.
Yep. So basically, they have obviously the members who knew Iados the best, and all guild members to come to the funeral. And he even included a message at the very bottom that states anyone who is close to Iados in character can send a PM to try to join the thread. They weren't initially invited.
Nice. Speaking of loss of members, or not really loss of members, but players rather. Psychotic going crazy. But there's been rumors that a great mythical carnivorous shark is being found, is attempted to be found by some people that are trying to revive his former guild. So we'll keep tabs on that and see where they are momentarily.
It's a myth. A myth, I tell you.
A shark on land? Impossible!
Who knows? But people have been claiming that there's been some sightings of this mythical beast, and no one can really no one can really provide some factual evidence according to if it's true or not. So, what are your guys' takes on that?
If this great shark does come back, I'll be surprised because I've never seen this shark for myself. But
Same.
for Hestia in character though, she'd be very happy because one of the things I'm having her do in character is basically go through every floor, try to write down all the details for it, and then secondly, talk to as many players who've been around longer than her to try to figure out what the past of Aincrad looked like. So if a certain shark came back, she'd have a very deep look into the very deep past. Back when stats and numbers weren't a
Very
thing.
deep past. Back when we were on PHPBB.
back when Hanzo was not a filthy weeb, but a boss.
Back then we had to deal with other issues.
Yeah, when your very first floor boss, Hanzo the Sailor Puppeteer, who controlled players.
Yeah, that was actually fun. It was an interesting boss battle.
Honestly, when it comes to that idea, it's kind of fun. It's like the whole idea of like nowadays controlling players sounds like ludicrous, but the idea of having that boss to player interaction is something I think is very key to all bosses, and something I'm glad that Tay has done with her boss. It's made it amazing.
Aw. Thank you.
Well, anyways, let's move on to talking about some quests and events. So, do we have any kind of upcoming quests that are in the works, or how about events? What are we at there, Hestia?
When it comes to quests in general, for myself, sadly, I've not been able to talk to Morgson or any of the floor development people, and I can't look at any of the chats to allow me to know knowledge of that. So sadly, I'm very unknowing of the actual officialized quests, I'll call them. But in terms of quests being revamped, there are a few classics being redone, possibly, for a future update. And there are a few in the making for Floor 24, with the general idea for the quests being heavily involved with the water portion of Panareza so far. If they've been officialized, unknown. But they have had some work on them.
What about you, Teion? Thoughts?
Yeah, I can only chime in that that is on my to-do list. I had and have been in development for the 424 boss, and I understand Hakoro was working a lot on the floor itself, but since he has stepped down, it's on my to-do list to go over what he had for the floor. So I'm actually some I haven't quite gotten to just yet. I don't know if the quests, if he had any quests blocked out, if they were finished, or what needs to be done on those. But we can assure you guys, with the release of a new floor, there is always going to be at least a couple good quests for him coming out. So
Nice. So we'll just have to keep tabs on that and keep you guys up to date as more information releases.
By the way, Sarky, I'd like to interject something.
Go
I
for
looked
it.
at the Twitch chat, and we got Neapolitan and Hazard in the chat. And both of them have followed the SAO-RPG Twitch chat now.
Yeah, thanks for the follow, guys.
Yeah, Neo posted in the Twitch chat the current update for Verfed trying to find the dangerous shark on land.
That would be an accurate description of that situation. Anyways, what about some? It looks to me like we've got a couple of events that are going to be pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Care to give a take on that?
Well, because we got the plot master back in action after a vacation. France, I think, or Italy, one of those two places. I'm not 100% sure which. Yeah, Aerith is back and is wanting to start up the next murder mystery thread on Monday or Sunday. And he let me know that when it comes to the next murder mystery thread, is obviously the two groups are coming back together, talk about what they found, and most importantly, the choices you make in all the murder mysteries from that moment forward will impact what can happen in the future. And after the murder mystery, we got Itzel's event that he worked alongside with Morgenstern called Fallen Angel. It's for Floor 13. It's two events, one for Tier 1/2 tier players. So, yeah, there's that, and there's the other one's for Tier 3 players. So that could be a lot of fun. And when it comes to the event for Fallen Angel, I think the most interesting thing for myself is going to see how the Tier 1/Tier 2 players deal with the whole having to form their own party, basically, without having any in-character knowledge of how to form a raid group.
without all the frontliners there.
Yeah.
Ew. Yeah, I can say I know Itzel and the Morgue have worked very hard on it. It's been in development for a long time while they've been doing their best to polish it up and make it as good as they can. So no, I'm really looking forward to now that it's finally rolling out. I hope it goes very well.
Speaking
If you
of
wanna know how long this has
Clodmaster,
been
it
in
looks like
development
Eric's
for?
in the chat.
Yeah, boy, it's in the chat now. Also, when it comes to how long this event's been in the work for, let's just say that last Christmas was when this was supposed to happen.
Supposed to. We don't run on
Yeah.
supposed to times these days. I mean, have you
I don't
seen
want to talk about
3.0?
release schedules.
Listen, when it comes to release schedules, we're about as consistent as
The government?
nothing.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I'm gonna have some
And
knocks
yeah,
on my door after this.
They're always listening, Saki. That would beware the Illuminati.
Always watching.
Always watching, Lazowski. Always watching. Also, about the Florida 13 event, real quick. It doesn't start tomorrow. The sign-ups start tomorrow, actually, for both events. I believe it's both events. I know confirmed it's Tier 1 and Tier 2. So I'm assuming it's also Tier 3's starting tomorrow. The sign-ups will last for an entire week. There will be a merchant there that you can buy stuff from, so that'll be actually pretty useful.
Oh yeah,
Florida-
we don't have to rush the poor crafter.
Yep.
That never turns out good.
Yeah, especially when most of the crafters are just busy. Some with real life matters.
Right.
There's also the fact that Neo's the only cook now in Aincrad who's active.
Oh,
Since-
Neo is a saint from the last boss.
Shout out for Neo providing half of all the buffs from the cook side of things, with Pinball trying to keep up.
How about just shout out to Neil for being a cook?
Oh hell yeah, Neo is the
All
OG for
around,
being a cook.
your one-stop destination.
Dedicated crafters of the real MVPs.
Also, speaking of cooks, I've RP'd with a new player by the name of Black, who's actually going to become a tank cook. So
Oh, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
yeah, so Neo won't be the only cook. But then again, you have Pinball who tried to be a cook, so hopefully he keeps with it, unlike Pinball. The poor spear boy's trying, but he keeps falling behind.
Psychotic, who are you on site?
I have not seen the name Psychotic before in the chat, so I think that might be Black. I'm very uncertain though.
Oh, could be.
I think it's Black because he did a
We're
smiley
a
face.
we're a few seconds behind, yeah. Or ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty quick behind. So I mean, there's not too much.
Wait, Pinball gave you an order of 15 dessert, which is a cook thing, which he could have done himself.
Jeez.
Hey, if it's good work, you can outsource
But the thing is, Pinball's being lazy about it.
it. Ooh.
Pin just other. Yeah, it is Black. Pin just has other stuff on his mind apparently.
Pinball in character, I like where he's going with his plot, which is basically he's becoming an orange player. So
Ooh, I do like Pin's character. I haven't gotten much chance to RP with him, but
luckily,
I
I've
like his rating.
had a lot of time to RP with Pinball because I have my alt called Mars, who's basically his DPS buddy.
Ooh.
And
Nice.
basically, when Pinball orders stuff from my alchemist shop on Mars, there's one thing I've noticed. I like to comment. I made a comment towards Pin about it. Is, oh my God, we're the DPS version of Beat and Sealed. Help me. Because the quote Pinball in his post, I'm gonna basically paraphrase it. Is he walked in my shop, said hello, the very sing-song version of his voice, ordered all my stuff, took the stuff he ordered, and said, "Thank you, lovely, bye," and left.
Oh, are we gonna
Psychotic-
expect a Mars pinball wedding soon?
Hey, you
Psychotic,
don't
you
even
can go
know.
into your settings
When I
and
mentioned
change your display
when I
name.
mentioned that to Pinball, he said, and he entered the general chat of SAO and said #MarsBall 28th on the date.
I ship it.
Wow. Yeah, Psychotic, you can go into your Twitch settings go to your profile, you should have a space that says username. There should be an edit icon or display name underneath that. That's how you can change it. Yeah, that's
sorry,
for
spur of
Twitch.
the moment. Vote for a new section of the podcast. Some clever name about ships.
I completely missed
Oh
that.
god. If we had a section of the podcast dedicated to sip names, that'd be silly.
Oh, yeah, oh my goodness. You know how crazy that would be? Remember when that thread was first created?
Ooh, SAO-RPG ship.
That was
Done.
pretty wild.
The thing is, the only sip names that I know of that I'm gonna remember forever is Kalawa, which is Calyx and Oika. Which is Calyx, the best tank in Aincrad, and only best tank because of his unique skill Achilles. And Oikawa, a orange player who did one message in the floor 23 boss meeting and then noped out.
Oikawa the murderer, his only redeeming quality.
Listen, that's all I know about Oikawa. If you can provide more information. Happy.
Fun times, man. Fun times.
All I know about Oikawa is his famous murder of Zell. Or was it who? Oh, who's the other person? It was like no, it's not Daron.
It was Nell, and Opal was the one that killed Dom.
Okay, it was Dom. I was like, 'cause I knew it wasn't Daron, because I knew Daron survived that incident. It's like, who's the other person? I couldn't remember the name.
Yep, Zell and Dom.
Yep.
And then on that day, they created a monster known as Death Adder, the edgiest Lord of Eds.
that was also pretty crazy. So many fun times though. Those are the days.
Oh yeah, if you guys don't know who Death Adder is,
look him up on the
yeah,
site.
he's our little boy with the dual wielding Kirito style. But instead of being a happy person, he's a very edgy person.
Don't piss him off.
You like
That's the one
Kirito
warning.
and edgy.
The difference here, Teion, is that the fact that Death Adder basically wants to be a hero is willing to put down anyone else who wants to be a hero of Aincrad. I mean, he stabbed Jomei.
Ooh,
Jomei had it coming. No offense, but he had it coming.
Suck with the hot takes.
Hey man, you got to bring a different aspect into this thing.
Oh yeah, but actually, see, if anyone actually wants to see Death Adder in action, look at floor 21. That was the last sighting of Death Adder. He basically went up against the boss, did some things, broke Zelius's most prized possessions, and then left.
Just pretty much any context for that. I don't believe that we have anybody who can to dedicate much time to playing as Death Adder and making him more of a prominent character on the site. So for now, we did kind of want to have him withdraw back into the shadows for the time being. Unique skills themselves are and have been completely revamped with 3.0. I don't believe there's any plan to release them before that, but
Yeah.
just kind of like a placeholder to give a bit of explanation as to why he fell off the face of the earth while we're working on this. Don't worry about it.
And then when it comes to Death Adder, also, when you try to play him, he's had many renditions because of the simple fact he's been passed down from one member to the next.
Different authors makes it a bit rough.
Yeah, so it's like hard to play him just right with what you've been given. Basically, I think we also use this excuse as him fading to the shadows to give him time to be whatever he needs to be for the next person.
Yeah, for sure. Going forth, what you guys want to talk about the upcoming floors?
Well, when it comes to next upcoming floors, the ones that are known and have been talked about before in the podcast was that PST member Ruby, also known as Beatbox, whoever you want to call him, or as Teion likes to say, lowercase b for beat is Beatbox, I think it was. And uppercase B for beat is beat the DPS duo in Sealed and Beats.
I have a system.
A system that somewhat works reasonably.
Yeah, so we have Ruby working on floor 25, which is called the Minotaur War Zone. So
Bit of a hint as to what might that be about.
yeah, and basically, the thing I'm worried the most when it comes to that floor is the idea of Asterios coming back in any form and shape.
Yeah, if Asterios
Nowhere is
come
safe,
back
don't worry.
come back into this at any point, everyone's just screwed.
And if anyone doesn't know who Asterios is,
Look it up.
he's
On the
known as he's known as the most evil creature because he can stun everyone and anyone over and over and over again without stopping seemingly. Was that a very accurate description, Teion?
Close enough.
Yeah. We don't talk about this Asterios anymore.
If you wonder who thought Asterios was a good idea, that was Mac. And not Macrodon, Mac.
But as far as future floors go, of course we've got Panares as the main settlement of floor 24. Luckily, floor 24 does have a wiki entry, so we have a little bit of canon information to go off of. I really don't think much, if anything, happened in it in the first season of SAO. I'd see on the wiki page it has things about Mother's Rosario, so not much as far as canon quests or anything notable that happened on the floor, but at least we've got like some good artwork to work with to give a good feel of the floor, and having that strong visual I think is really nice.
Yeah, definitely. Having a strong visual is always a good thing, just because then that gives us more detail that we can use to better create a floor.
Okay.
So, what's something you guys would like to see in future floors?
I really just want to have more character to boss interactions, be it mindless monster or not. And mindless monster is basically the example of it would be Bialis, a horse, no thoughts, no sentience to it. Meanwhile, then we have Tan's boss, who's not a mindless monster, but a collective 5 people with varying, interesting personalities. And I feel bad for Tan since he lost a comic relief right away.
Well, fun fact, Bialis was also my design, though a bit more rushed. The Dark Elf Council was my first project into boss design, and that was in progress for about a year before it actually went live. But Bialis being my second attempt at boss creation was my first one to run, so it was my first time running one, and there was a lot of takeaway from that, and we'll get into it later, but there is a lot of takeaway from this boss fight. Boy.
Oh, this boss fight has been nothing but beautiful, beautiful chaos.
And abuse. I mean, what?
As Neo said in the Twitch chat, we've all seen when an empathetic boss has got us.
Speaking of empathetic bosses, what's the biggest issue that frontliners face in this boss raid?
Themselves.
Each other.
Elaborate on that.
Okay, basically we have to talk about what happened in the boss fight first to get to that. Basically what happened so far is, what happened first was the players focused down bosses one by one, starting with Ritar, which was the poison guy who I would call a little bit insane in the head.
Jeez.
Want to talk about Ritar at all, Tan? Since we're talking about your boss.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, I spent a bit developing each of them. I might have gone a bit overboard with a couple of them, but I'll get into that in a second. Yeah, I had an idea of what each of them were like before and after this whole fall of the Dark Elf Queen. That is a huge piece of lore about Floor 23 is, you know, what happened to the queen and what happened at the surface. Why are all of the dark elves living in the underground, you know, seemingly waiting for the end of a war that has long since passed, where maybe they have not necessarily lost, but they certainly did not win. And in the boss fight, the Dark Elf Council, comprised of 5 members, each of them has their own motivations, their own ideals, being a part of this council. I really wanted to make them 3-dimensional, and I am happy with how they turned out. Yes, Ratar was one of the inherently evil guys. This council in itself is not good. They have done some bad things. They're bad guys. But yes, Ratar was he was in it for his own gain. He was an alchemist, an experimenter, and well, with the queen gone and Esoxy taking over as the head of the council, he was free to develop some of his more dangerous experiments, and his mental stability quickly went downhill as he was the first to get focused and absolutely wrecked. He was my main form of raid damage, so
Yeah, Richard was all about the AoE stuff.
having him go early was surprising, actually. Though, you know, going in close to blind made total sense, and after the huge amount of damage that went out in the first round towards him up until the point where it became more clear that he was not a healer, they really did not make a bad decision just continuing to cut him down.
Yeah, when it came to the floor boss and how we were meant to tackle it, the general idea was that I believe they called Roy the Hikaru wannabe. Or was that Ratar?
That was Rory. First he started out as what it was at My Chemical DPS. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ratar was Hikaru wannabe because I think it was specifically because he had a dagger.
Oh yeah, I think that had to be it. So they thought he was like I think the idea was maybe he was dangerous because of the fact he could stab the back row people, not the tanks.
Yeah, and I mean daggers, I feel like very ambiguous when it comes to a role, because we've seen, like, obviously Hikaru, hidden stealth users that use daggers. You also have an SAO canon, Pina the Beastmaster uses a dagger. And now we have, I had Ratar the Alchemist use a dagger, poison dagger even.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So then it came next to Rory, who got knocked out next.
Oh, so sad, my mouthy boy.
Yeah,
Rip.
Roy was the one who had all the sass and personality, to the point where Morgenstern, in character, helped him to his feet and said, "You know what, buddy? Continue to do what you're doing. You're doing amazing."
You're
And I
doing
think-
great
Words of
things,
encouragement
buddy.
for a guy down on his luck.
And I think, besides myself, who started the boss raid by ignoring all commands from Macrodon, who was the appointed commanding officer of the field, that was the point where Aerith was most likely starting to lose his sanity. Because, oh my god, Aerith lost it.
That move by Morgenstern, I am surprised it had the impact that it did. From, you know, my perspective in the fight, playing, I brought both Teion and Tel into the fight, and I can relate more closely to Teon's perspective. Just kind of indifferent. So it's surprising to me that some characters were so moved one way or the other in the interactions with this boss. And I could never have predicted that some would go so far. I'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit to Hiru's move. and his decision to physically defend one of the bosses and try to help them while the fight is going on.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, that's what we mean by players cause their own downfall. Because Hiro moved to defend the small Healy boy Duraras, and after that moment, everything went to the garbage can. Because what happened was Hiro acted first in his group. He went forward, protected Duraras, who was about to die soon. Because it made sense. The last members were a DPS person who hit the tank, so not too much worry unless you're Morgenstern, who's been bullied.
Rip him.
Then there is Ivahira, the paladin woman, who has a good heart, I would say. But she kind of let the evil things happen, so evil. Then there's Duras, who's when he first entered the boss room, and for half of the fight, I'll say, he showed a very lack of emotions. But after the first two people died, he started panicking. And then when he's getting close to death, all the emotions he had is unleashed, I would say. And so Hiro jumped in front of him, protected him, which then made his group, which was sealed, Baldur, and the rest of them, not do anything for that entire round. They just said, like, I'm not doing anything, see how this plays out. And then group 2... Okay, continue what you say.
Sorry. I believe Baldur, because Beat was actually stunned for the round, so he didn't have much he could do. Baldur, I think, went for Isoxy instead.
Right.
Yeah, that's where they started deflecting from. All right, I guess see where this goes, and stopped attacking the healer and started attacking the DPS. Which, I mean, they've made a good dent in her, so definitely wasn't wasted action. And here I'll say I know I definitely played up the more human aspects of those two specifically, Ivahira and Durares. I might have overdone it a bit with how I was trying to draw empathy for them. Because out of character, I will reiterate, they are evil. The council as a whole is evil. At least, if it makes sense to pity anyone, it worked out well that it was Durares, him being, or at least his design being of an actual child. Maybe the backstory there is that he doesn't know that what he's doing is wrong, or he doesn't have a choice in the matter. So for this to kind of like turn on its head, that ends up making the most sense. So I'm interested to see. Gosh, there's gonna be so much fallout from this. I'm interested to see where the frontliners stand amongst each other, even after all of this.
I can tell you right now, I know the fate of one guild already because of this.
Well, that's gonna be rough.
Oh yeah, but we weren't even done. Then came group 2 after Hugh protected Durares. And that's where things went downhill.
The infighting.
So we started over with Strider. He tackled Hero to the ground. Like, it's flat out tackled him to the ground, pinned him to the ground, yelled at him by saying, what is he doing? Why are you doing this? It's not helping humanity like you say it is. And then came Hidden, who stabbed Hero while he's on the ground and couldn't do anything. Then Pinball came in and stabbed Hidden. And then there was Hikaru, who did the sanest thing in that situation and attacked Durares with some decent damage.
Although Ivahira's sacrifice was actually up at that point, and she was able to intercept the blow. Though his phase did proc, so he got some bypass on her high mitigation. Wasn't all for naught, but... Yeah.
And Zanja did like a Healy thing on Hikaru because he was paralyzed for that round. So that's why she did nothing. And the tank of that round was... Who's the tank of that group?
Calrex?
Oh yeah. The
funny thing is, poor Calrex.
No. This is the best part. Before anyone did anything for that round, Calrex in character thought to himself, I'm gonna set an example, the golden example for what my group should be doing. He went in, he hit Ixoxy, he did the damage, And then all that happened, where
And-
the infighting happened. I feel so bad for Calix for that. He's like, I'm gonna set the example of when it all just went downhill.
Yeah, so
And
we've
then-
got.
And then came Group 3. And they actually focused Ixaxi for the ones who posted, which was Jomei and Itzel attacking Ixaxi. Oh, and Morganson, I think. So it was Morganson, Jomei, and Itzel attacking Ixaxi doing the smart thing, which was not attempting to kill Hiru. And then there was my group who focused Ixaxi and Ibahira. Because we had one DPS boy who was an AoE, which was Domaris. So we attacked both of them. I focused Ixaxi's because I was doing that the entire time during the raid anyway. That's all I did for the first 3 rounds of combat is attack Ixaxi. Because for the one simple fact is,
Relentless questions.
yeah,
Give me the lore.
as I said, Hestia is all about trying to figure out the lore of everything. So you see this relentlessly bombarded Ixaxi while punching her in the face with her sword, demanding answers.
Yeah, so we've got frontliners striking down other frontliners. So many emotions in this boss fight.
Jeez. Yeah, real quick before we get too much more into going over what's going on in that raid, I do want to give a couple of shout outs. Our recent donations, we do have Percival, who's in a monthly donor, so we have a huge thanks for that donation. And a recent donation came through was Hazato, and huge thanks to him. And then we've also had, I believe there was also Black, who also donated. So huge thanks to you guys. Thanks for the support, and
Thank you.
continue doing what you do.
By the way, since we're talking about the Twitch chat for a quick little moment, actually, I said it for the Q&A section, so I'll put that down for later. Let me do that.
All right, go for it.
And yeah, basically, but when it comes to the whole anarchy part of things, I feel bad for Magradon, because he's seeing a Vice Commander Hiru protecting a monster. So Magradon, I talked to Magradon about what his character's gonna be doing and how he's reacting to all this. And spoilers to anyone who doesn't want to know what's gonna happen. Okay, I can continue now. Basically, Macrodon in character is leaving the KOB because of the thing about how he allowed this to happen in the first place.
Wow.
And then you got Hiru, who, since Macrodon's leaving, he's gonna be all sad and he's gonna go loner boy again. So that means either loner while staying in the KOB, or loner as in leaving the guild altogether along with Macrodon. So
Tensions high, guild's crumbling. What next?
so that's a very interesting fate that's happening to them.
No kidding. That's wild.
And then when it comes to other players who reacting to this, Itzel's in character very disappointed with what's happening. Then you have Itzel's alt character Domaris, who's lost faith in all of humanity at this point. That's not me dramatizing something. That's what he said in character, quoting it.
Wow.
I think
I feel like pretty decently past a halfway point in this fight. It is on the downhill portion, just kind of riding the rest of the fight out right now. But
yeah, I think at this point, most of the high, very in-character writings can be happening coming from the player side of things. Because you are left with Ixaxis, he's Ixaxis, he's not that empathetic of a character.
oh goodness, no! If anything, she's the worst. There shouldn't actually be any question about cutting her down. She's been the most mouthy and least remorseful for sure.
I mean, when we think of Hugh's nicknames for all the bosses, he's one who came up with My Chemical DPS and Hikaru Wannabe. He called Ixaxi my waifu, so...
That's gold.
So... I think there might be a slight bias to maybe like
then-
her.
And here's the one jumping in front of bosses to protect them.
Strike down like Asuna.
Oof. So yeah, I think I actually forgot the name what they gave him. What they gave for Duras. I think it was like the boy who lives
Yugi.
with some. Oh, Yugi. I forgot that.
Yeah, tarot card boy.
That makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah, so writing out the rest of this fight, actually I would say I think the worst of it is over. Hero jumping in like that was definitely a curveball for everybody, myself included. But it makes for a dang good story. So
No, it just sounds like it's gonna be quite interesting going forth.
I'm
Speaking
really
of-
interested to see how it affects the next frontliner meeting, people's personal threads after the boss fight. There's going to be a lot of fallout, a lot of character interaction. You know, people feeling like they're seeing others' true colors. Maybe they're more solidified in their own mindset of how, you know, what is the best way to get out of here? Who can I rely on? All of those things are kind of what I think might be going on through people's heads right now.
Right.
Well,
this
I just
raid-
remembered that Matt. I know. Sorry for interrupting you, but
Oh, you're good. Go ahead.
you know Discord lag is a high annoyance when trying to talk. Yeah. When it comes to, I remember that Matt himself also said he's gonna be leaving the front lines for a little bit in character for in character reasons. So you're losing a member also because of this one raid.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Well, this entire raid's gonna be a huge turning point in just how the players are going forth. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting just to keep tabs and see what's going on after this raid's over.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be
Anarchy.
absolutely. That's the hot word right now. There's anarchy everywhere.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, at least from my plans after the raid, I'm gonna want to have Hestia try to attempt to hold a meeting among at least as much people as possible, being like, okay, what happened the last time was a the worst thing ever that could have happened for us. How do we learn from that? And try to and basically the idea I want her to try to go for is try to form a code of conduct at this point of what's allowed, what's not allowed to do.
I'm sorry, I just imagine Hestia, like, wherever it's held, some kind of room or something. She's got everything set up. She's got, like, her little journal out. She's sitting down. She is ready for this meeting. She knows exactly what she's gonna say, and just, like, empty room.
Like it's just crickets, like,
Like that,
chirp,
like
chirp,
when you
chirp.
invite everyone to a birthday party and no one shows up.
Oh jeez.
That reminds me. When you said that, the first thing that came to mind was a song done by
Down by
NSP. Like a song done by NSP. I don't want to say the actual name. Cause, like, what's the rating of this podcast? What's the rating? Is this a PG-13 podcast?
There's no restrictions on the podcast, but it's whatever.
Okay, now say the name of the
Mature
band.
language. Warning, enabled,
No.
explicit content.
I'll say the name of the band I'm talking about. NSP stands for Ninja Sex Party,
Oh.
which is the band singer's name is Dan Avedon, he's most known from Game Grumps. And the song he has is called Danny Don't You Know. One of the lyrics from that song is, it's your birthday and you invite all your friend are here.
Oh, your friend.
Yep.
Jeez.
Oh, beautiful.
NWA all over.
Wait, MWA. I'm confused.
The band. Have you not seen Straight Outta Compton?
I have not.
Mm. Sorry.
Wait, sorry, Nia pointed something in the Twitch chat, and she said she thinks that Morg gets sworn off tanking altogether.
Ooh, I mean, I'm aware of some definite issues between Morg and one of our other top tanks right now, Shield. Being in the same field, there's definitely been some strain between them as far as
Yeah.
kind of the who's the better tank feeling,
Sorry.
and yeah, with Morgenstern
Sark
already
messaged
feeling.
me. Sark messaged me the name of what the NWA stands for, so I started bursting out giggling. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
I sent it to Teion
but
too.
Oh no. But with the but with Morgenstern already kind of in a rough place with that internal conflict. This is just my take on what his story is going on, but with his internal conflict with Shield, one of his own guildmates, for the time being. Now having this happen, in his last post you saw a complete shift in his mindset, kind of just really questioning his own actions, in which maybe the less vocal people didn't think there was anything wrong with it, but he was definitely, I don't know if I want to say ousted is the right word, but he was brought under fire hard by the more critical, more vocal people in the raid so far.
Oof, rough.
Yeah, when it comes to the Celestial Ascendants' attitude towards each other and themselves as characters themselves, they're a very big guild with like a history to the site, and this shows in their character. Because you have the conflict between Morgenstern and Sealed, as I think Morgenstern feels like in character has this inferiority complex to him when it comes to tanking. So he takes things very personally to that matter. And then you have Hikaru as a character who has this title to himself, the Master of Shadows, because of his unique skill. At the same time, he himself has developed this like complex of needing to be in the shadows because that's what people expect from him. But he doesn't like the idea of becoming forgotten and like just ignored by people.
Oh yeah, if I recall correctly, he had a very emotional thread with you and Balder a short time ago.
Yes.
A lot of things came out there.
And the thing is, we're continuing that thread. Whenever Balder has the time to post again.
Oh, awesome.
This was brought up. This emotions were brought up from the Betrayal of the King quest when they did it together, and he grew up that whole thing to him, and Balder and Hestia tried to help him, with Balder being more better at it, because he's very good at helping people with words. Meanwhile, I'm mean, very awkward and bad at comforting people with words. And the best thing I can do is try to be the best positive force possible, try to counteract his sadness. And yeah, so then Hikaru invited Balder and Hestia back to his house, which is very fitting of Hikaru with what it's designed to be, which is a cave on floor 21, far out of reach, behind a secret door of all things, also. Which, so it fits with his whole Master of Shadows, always being the sneaky shadow person, which what he's known for. And in fact, he's also in charge of the information brokers in character, what he likes to do.
Yeah, seeing those info brokers start working more and more from the time that they were first created is going to be interesting, just to see how players interact with them.
Yeah, good point. So I'm very curious how this is all going to be panning out in the end. Because with so many things happening in such a short time span, it's just going to be chaos in a nutshell, and see how people just adapt to that.
Right, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting watching this going forth.
So yeah, I'm going to make sure to keep tabs on many as the frontliners as possible at this point, just to see what they're doing with themselves up to this.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
how do the characters doing?
Yeah, that especially since some of them will come into our topic highlights too, going forth, just to see where people are going and keeping tabs. So speaking of the topic highlights, have you guys seen any interesting topics besides the raid this month, or since we've had our last episode?
As I said like last time I was on the podcast, I never like to promote my own threads because I don't like the idea of having that possible personal bias towards things. So I don't like to mention my own threads at all. So if I have interesting threads, I won't even message them because that one reason.
Okay.
Interesting topics. I mean, yeah, as far as threads go, I mean, I don't, as much as I wish I could, I don't really browse through threads much anymore. So I don't have anything off the top of my head as far as like interesting threads going on their own, although I know that they're happening.
Well, if you want about topics we know about, there's obviously the for now, hiatus thread of trying to find a dangerous Sarkland boy. And there's also the Fall of the Ascendants thread that's happening for Itzel's Guild. For any others, I'm not sure what would
in
count as
chat,
a
Neo's
big
they're
interesting
a
thread.
couple people are bringing up Zan's beach party.
Oh, that is-
Hazard and Neo.
Oh yeah, this isn't the first time that Xander's hosted a beach party. I've really only heard bits and pieces about it. I'm not attending myself, but I know that there was a couple. It looked like there was a lot of thought put into it. They had like something like a scavenger hunt, and now they're doing, I believe it's a combat section, or maybe they're preparing
Yeah.
for it. I read about that update in the title of it.
Yeah, reason I know most of it is I've been watching the general chat of seeing people talk to each other about it, which was mainly Neo and Haz and other people who are actually participating in it. I have not participated in it myself, mainly because I could not find an in-character logical reason to do so. So, and Teion's right, there was a scavenger hunt, which was based on, I imagine Zanjo in-character placed around crystals of varying colors all around the beats. Instead of being, a set amount of each crystal, with one being worth more than the other, there being 3 different types of crystals.
Oh,
And I
there's
think
gonna be a swimsuit competition.
it's Zanjo. What do you expect, Teion?
You're right. No, but I love that kind of thread. Was it last year? The staff run summer events that I was involved in with the fireworks festival and the beach party. The beach party, yeah, was very much just like here's an open party thread. We've got some people to host it and kind of push things along. But other than that, it was a pretty standard social thread. So what Xander is taking the extra time to do is really nice. I like stuff like that. You know, if any kind of events, party type things, any little games or extra mechanics that can be come up with and thrown into a thread, like as long as it makes sense and it's not treading any lines as far as non-sanctioned rewards. Obviously you can't like make up your own items to give out without some kind of approval or working with staff, but little extra mechanics, something to make it more fun, or just kind of out of the ordinary, like let's do a scavenger hunt on the beach. Yeah, that kind of stuff is great. I love it.
I think when it also comes to you mentioned the whole prize thing. I think that when I talked about Zanjo about her little event thing at the beach, I think she even mentioned that she personally is handing out things from her own personal reservoirs of
Aw.
things.
That's great. That's awesome.
Don't quote me on that being the actual factual truth, because
Wow.
my memory's not the best at times.
If there are any rewards, of course, if the player goes out of their way to incentivize or, give something to the community for participating, that's always awesome.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a nice community builder that they make.
Hmm.
I think that also helps improve Zanjo's character at least to an extent. Because every time she's trying to mention her character and what she's done with her past, she mentions she's always had a bad rep in character. The thing, what reasons she's had. I've not been around the site long enough to know what those reasons are exactly. So, by her doing these things in character with by trying to incorporate the community and more specifically the newer characters, it's allowing a chance for her to redeem her character's reputation to an extent.
Yeah, and I can provide a brief history lesson. There was a huge fallout with a bunch of different people when it was actually Ariel that killed Lowenthal. Yeah, I'm a little fuzzy on all the details. I think there was much more to it than just Ariel killed Lowenthal, but and so probably because of that, maybe there was some more information that not everybody's aware of. Xandra, being Ariel's best friend, sided with Ariel, and there was a huge conflict between, Jome, her fiance at the time, was, Lowenthal's best friend, and so having Xandra side with, this person who in a duel, because so she didn't actually change to an orange cursor, but hey, on the Monument of Life, it's Ariel's name marked next to Lowenthal, so
Now that
yeah.
makes so much sense why they broke up in character, Jomei and Sandra.
Oh yeah, that's why
Yep.
Zandra got such kind of a bad reputation in the first place, was, you know, being tied to Ariel, who had such a negative view in the community. You know, maybe for the right reason, maybe not. I haven't gone poking around in there, but this is, I feel she's been wanting to do some kind of redemption, maybe distance herself from Ariel, and you know, try to
Not too difficult to
become
distance yourself from Ariel.
become closer to the community and show everybody that she's not a bad guy on her own. So that's something like this beach party. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to the beach party and other events he's gonna host, it's gonna solidify her reputation at least among the lower players and anyone who hears about it through the network of word of mouth. That she isn't as bad on herself by herself. At least
Mhm.
Hestia herself has done one thread of Zanja that lasted about 3 months because life's difficult sometimes. And we did most annoying thread, I'll call it, quest, which is trouble in the mines. If you're trying to go for the extra rewards, it's just like it's a grind.
And I
it
saw
always?
Neo asked about Ariel's cursor color.
Still
According
shows
to
green.
her profile right now, yep, she's still green. I don't know if she had a time where she went orange, but she is currently green.
Yeah, I don't know. But we also don't do the typical rule to where if you attack a player, you turn orange for some odd hours. We just do it once they kill someone. We'll change them then.
Yeah, basically, when you attack a player in character, you in character say you turn orange, but we don't change the cursor. That's just
Because it changes back in about an hour or
yeah.
so, according to
It isn't
canon.
worth the work.
Yeah, with the strike system, you'll only get a change on sight if you straight up kill someone, or if you've got, like, I think it's the 4th time attacking someone, then it gets switched on sight. But back when this whole thing with Ariel Lowenthal happened, I do remember it was a full loss duel, I want to say,
Mhm.
and
Oh, so
to
it's
this
valid.
day
It won't
our
turn her orange. It won't turn your player
yeah, our
orange with
rules
that.
have not changed for that.
Yeah, I think that I actually know that the rules haven't changed for that because I remember actually I don't remember if that was a duel or not because there was a character named Faye who killed someone. I think that was the self-defense clause activating
Yes,
actually.
because the person who attacked them first went orange, and attacking an orange player does not change your own cursor, so
Exactly.
self-defense basically.
Yeah, I was trying to remember like what was the actual word for word of it. Yeah, I remember now.
Don't remember
Yeah.
exactly. Anyways, let's continue treading forth. What's going on with so we've all heard the rumors of 3.0, but no one has actually had outside of staff has actually had the privilege of actually knowing what is actually going to go on. So, with that being said, what are you guys at on it?
So Dan.
3.0 is not a myth. It's a project that has been basically stuck in development hell for a long time, as a lot of people know. There is solid work on it. It's pretty much a complete overhaul of just about every, or some kind of change to pretty much every system on the site right now. So we are sorry that it's taking so long, but with the amount of people that we have with free time to work on it, as we are all volunteers, it's a slow going process, and things are constantly being, you know, reviewed again, triple checked, tweaks being made even after we thought something was perfect. So
Yeah, when it comes to the delay of 3.0, it's a combination of people who have free time to do things that aren't conflicting with your IRL schedule, the fact that the 3.0 GM has changed time and time and time and again, which has caused the fact of reworking what was left to them beforehand, changing all that from scrap.
Yeah,
So,
so offering an explanation, not an excuse. So hopefully we will, it's something that we don't want to release in pieces because a lot of parts affect other parts. And we've had discussion on this in the past. And
mhm.
I think what we're aiming to do for the release for it, is make the announcement, get it out there, and list out everything that's changing, essentially give you guys a full breakdown of everything, if not just have the new tutorials and stuff released, as well as maybe what I tried to do in the last major patch, which is like a TLDR. Hey, if you have this thing, it's changing to this, or just try to give people what's relevant to them if they don't have time to sit down and sift through all the changes, and let that sit for a short while and let everybody know what all is
Mhm.
changing. But obviously, with the way that threads are functioning in our medium, trying to switch a system immediately, uh,
Doesn't work.
yeah, it's not fun to get updated for. So we'll kind of put everything out there, let it sit, let people get adjusted to it, and then we will have a date of effectiveness to where at that point for any new threads, those are the new rules going forward. But as far as what's in 3.0, I've personally taken the back seat from working on it so much. I've shifted most of my attention, putting any free time that I have really towards running the boss fight, and kind of working on developing the next one and putting my fingers in the next floor to try and get that ready and get that going. But I don't have too much besides what things I think I've already kind of talked about. I don't know if it's been talked about on the podcast before. I guess I'll just get into some detail. A leveling system change is definite. That has been finalized for some
Yep.
time now. So there was a thread a while back where we tried to get as much community input and discussion as we could on how to fix some of the problems that we have with balancing right now, and the level gap, the huge discrepancy from people just joining the site and starting out at level 1 and those who have been around for a long time or who have
Mhm.
done so much that the site has to offer already, that they are miles ahead of those people in terms of level and combat ability. So it has steadily made boss design and things for the frontliners and what you need to be a frontliner. It's been raising that bar higher and higher, and making it harder for us to design the bosses and cater to have more people. I think with the last couple of them, it's gone okay, but there's still such a huge skew as like what's a danger to a level, 35 person, which my personal opinion, I think is a fine level to be at the front lines for the floor that we're at, 23. And what is a danger to a level 75 person.
Hi.
Yes, Hestia has personal experience with that. So, I'm sure people have heard about it just because I don't think we're keeping it a secret anymore. But a level cap is a thing that we are looking at pushing forward. But we're not trying to screw anybody. We've definitely taken a lot of thought into how to keep the how to keep the people who have put the most effort into their characters to make sure that they don't feel like they're getting their character and all their hard work taken away from them. So we are definitely working to. What's essentially going to happen, I think, is that the top will stay at the top. The strongest people on the site will remain the strongest, as it should be. But basically, the whole power, like the graph of where everybody lands in
Mhm.
terms of power, it's just kind of going to get squished down. Essentially, we're going to try to do like a stat squish, to make
It's
balancing a lot
needed.
easier. That includes a shift over to an experience system rather than skill points determining your level, although you will have skill points to invest in your skills. Most of that is going to be largely unchanged. Skills are getting, some of them are getting redone, a little less knowledgeable on this side. We are looking to definitely provide more build options. The familiar system is an overhaul that I'm very excited about because it's going to change familiars from being an extra equipment piece as they are now functionality to where everybody has to have them, to more of a dedicated build path. If you would like to be a Beastmaster, that option is definitely open to you, but there's gonna have to be some investment. And if you guys are okay with me droning on and on, I can I can throw out a little disclaimer. Because one thing I didn't want to happen is that there's been such an in-character bond between people and their familiars once they get them, even if it's gotten out of necessity, right, Hestia?
Yeah. Okay. Since we're talking about me, I want to say something quick to what Hazard said in the chat.
Sure.
He said like he gave up on trying to reach the front lines, and I say that's the right mentality to have. Honestly, don't try to go to the front line. What you should be doing is not grinding up to the front lines like I did. I'm telling you right now, that's stupid and it's a waste of your time. Because all you're doing is just, if you don't have infinite muse like I do, let's joke about having, is it burns your muse quickly, and it doesn't create good story at all. It doesn't. What you should be doing instead of trying to get to the front lines is you should be focusing on the story, not the levels, not the stats. That's all secondary. Focus on your story. What do you want your character to do? Focus on that first. Focus on the goals, ideals, what they're trying to do with their life. That's the essence I want people to try to focus on instead of this dumb leveling and stats. If you focus on the stats and the leveling, it becomes less fun for some people. I know you have people like Sealed who are a robot. So
Aw.
you can't tell me otherwise. That man he's such a perfectionist to some degree. Like he's such robotic in nature at some points.
Aww.
The quote Sealed
That's
in the
a bit harsh.
the quote no let me try to defend myself here. The quote Sealed in the karaoke chat once is he can mimic like voices and things he does like down to a T because he heard them before. And me and Itchel joked like that just makes you defined as a robot even better because you just mimic things that you hear.
Oof.
Yeah, basically the
Well, and something.
restate is just like don't focus on levels, don't focus on stats, focus on your story, what you want to do, ignore the front lines, just do what you want to do. Eventually you get there. You don't need to focus that so much.
Though I can definitely see where people are coming from. If they want being a frontliner to be a big part of their story, it's exciting to get there. But right now, it's like an unwritten rule of what level do I have to be to get to the front lines? And as the highest level people keep climbing, keep getting better, and keep improving themselves, which is great, it just naturally sets that bar higher and higher. So that's something that I want to stop. I don't want new players to feel discouraged or feel like it's so far off, feel like it's unattainable. I feel like that really might be driving new people away. So that's something that we're looking to do more for inclusion.
I think as you mentioned today with the fact that we're having the I don't want to use the term, but it's the best term to use, the level requirement to be the frontliner.
Yeah, right.
It's such a bad term, but it's the best one that fits.
It's well, and because for anybody who's new to it, they're left unsure. Like, well, what level should I be to be on an even playing field? I want my character to be safe. You can die in those fights.
And I'll always say to them, if you're a DPS or healer, or any class, just be level 30. That's all you need to be, and you can be on the front lines.
I think right now, that's a good, I guess, goal to shoot for anybody who's newer and who wants to join the front lines as soon as they can. But for me, from a staff side of it, I want that I want less hoops to jump through to get you to where you want to go in the story. Not to undermine anybody who's put in the effort of, power leveling or getting to the front lines. Like I said, hopefully this move to experience and putting a level cap to help us design more fair fights and let more people participate. It's gonna be more like a stat squish and less like a nerf. So just kind of bring that bar down a little bit. If I can chime in on one more thing about the familiars real quick.
If I could, yeah, you asked
go
a
ahead.
question. I mentioned the whole thing, you could be any role and be on the front lines, and be fine if you're level 30. It's about the point of tanks, and realistically, tanking front lines, sadly, if you're level 30 and a tank want to be the front lines, you're better off trying to be damaging with the damage over time things than actually tanking. Because the way we're sneak peek of how we make bosses, when we make bosses, the attacks that are meant for the tanks are meant to be very, very powerful. Something that level 30 should not be engaging with. Kind of powerful.
Only because the tank characters are naturally building and have higher defenses than everyone else.
Mhm.
Yeah, we try to be as fair and as smart about it as we can. I definitely took a look. It was maybe not coincidence, but all of the tanks in this current boss fight are some of our highest tier players.
And they're gonna stay that way because it's the logical thing to do. You have Cowex with Achilles, which is have fun trying to kill him. You have Sealed with his high mitigation because of unique enhancements. And then you have me or Morgenstern tanking, which is the highest mid we can get at tier 3.
And well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. If you mention Macrodon's going to be taking a break from the front lines, depending on how Morgenstern takes this.
Oh, good
right?
point.
In this boss
I didn't
fight,
realize
there
that.
are 4 main tanks. And while actually you, Hestia, I would say you'd make a clear candidate for stepping up to be a main tank in the front lines. That still at least leaves one spot, so it'll be interesting to see. Will we see any new tanks?
If you're being honest with me, if I think at this point, since we've actually reached the point where mitigation tanks are gone, kind of.
In
I
terms
think
of new players, new builds.
yeah. In terms of, I think 2 things will happen. 1 or 2 things will happen. 1, the Dodge tank comes to prominence. Or 2, we bump up someone that's tier 2, like Domars or some other tier 3 player that has high enough mid to pass. Actually, I think Zandra would be the next tank then.
Oh wow.
Which I kind of doubt at the same time, because I think Sealed would bring up the logic of healer and tank impossible.
It's kind of how they wouldn't have you take on both roles of being a tank and a
Even though
support.
I think in reality I could do it with both ways, because the simple fact is, I would be focusing at that point, basically doing what Sealed does. Sorry, Pinball messaged me and he said hashtag let Pinball tank.
Yeah, he put that in the YouTube chat.
So yeah, yeah, basically the Dodge tank, like Pinball, will come to prominence, or they'll have to accept the fact that they have to let Hestia tank and support at the same time, because the fact that real life is coming into factor due to school, which I'm actually in college, fun, right? We have the 3rd or 4th healer, I forget where it's Kaiser. 1 or 2.
I go with Cassier, but
Cassier.
I'd have to ask them directly, but
yeah, Cassier. She's busy with school, so that's a support down, which leaves Ruby, Sandra, and Hestia. So if you want to stick to 3 teams, they have to let Hestia tank and support, or they have to move up someone who isn't Sandra, who isn't Hestia, to become the new tank. So that's awesome. I'm glad you brought that point up, Teion, because I didn't think about that. That's actually I'm excited now to see where this goes.
Yeah, a lot of things are gonna change after this is over, but I still have a couple of things to chime in on as far as 3.0 mechanics
Yeah.
and such if we're still on that topic.
Go for
Yeah,
it.
you gotta do that there.
Okay, in terms of so on the topic of build paths, which is kind of where we got caught up for a minute, um we want to give players as many options as we can. Um, I feel like we've already done a fair job at pushing, more than just the DPS build. So we've got tanks, we've got supports. Though supports have always been kind of in a rough spot. So working on that's going to be a joint effort between skill development, making those skills either better or making more of them, more options, or even cheaper options, so that it's not so expensive to be a healer. In terms of SP and from a monster and like boss development or quest development side of things, because we've been so we have needed for so long to rely on um, people staying safe without a dedicated player to support and heal them, so things maybe didn't hit as hard as they would. So it's skirting that line between making supports feel really useful in their own right and making it so that supports are necessary and you can't go anywhere without one, because we don't exactly want to um, feel that constraint either. It's been an interesting learning process, basically like game development almost, uh, with working some of the 3.0 systems. Um,
Say,
mhm.
sorry, you mentioned support, so I have to mention the fun fact is we are trying to make more things for supports. So, which I'm personally hoping will promote actually more supports in general. Because at the moment, I think with since we have had Neo be like an absolute saint once more, and keep track of like tier 1, tier 2 players who are doing things like in terms of builds, because he's RP'd them more than I have. We have the 4 healers on the front line, with Cassia missing. We then have 3 tier 1 healers actually, which is to me surprising considering
Nice.
DPS everywhere. With the 3 supports being Reef.
Uh, it's either Rith or Rife. I believe that they
Yeah.
clarified the pronunciation, but I just saw it in passing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's that character being a support. Then there's Frappy who's gone MIA, and then there's Krista who's usually RPing with
Mhm.
Vigilante if I remember correctly. So with those 3 people, that's at the very least I feel that the tier 1 / tier 2 event that It's All Immersion will be doing, if at least Reef
Rith, I
so
believe Nia said it was.
okay, Riff, along from her and Krista show up, I am 100% sure that the tier 1 / tier 2 group will do just fine.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. Events like that cater these kind of frontline feel fights. If there's like boss fight or some larger combat that's more elaborate than just like something you'll see in a quest. Delivering that to the lower level players. We used to have things like the monthly event bosses. There hasn't been enough time and enough hands to have that upkeep. But I'm glad that we're seeing this event to the lower
Oh,
players to give them that experience.
Sorry, I see something. I missed one more healer, Sonova.
Okay.
I didn't know that one.
So in terms of build paths, we're really looking to expand on that. I mentioned players like Koru and Hidden who are already kind of established in their rogue type stealth builds. Right now, you have to take a really specific set of skills, and it takes a really big investment for that to be worth it. So expanding on that, like stealthy, maybe like burst damage option, and then big thing, beast tamers, changing the whole familiar system from a piece of equipment to a tree of skills, essentially, like putting points into your familiar and your ability to control your familiar. I don't know for sure how the skills are going to be broken out yet, but something like that. So beast tamers and familiars in combat might end up becoming more rare because it's going to change your a person's SP investment to kind of either split between yourself, skills for you and skills for your pet, but hopefully the idea is to balance out in combat that you working together with your familiar. There's no loss there. You're not gimping both of you, as opposed to being a more powerful single player. And so my last note, I was talking about how a lot of people, though familiars seem to be a necessity, have a strong in character bond with their familiars. I know Hestia can vouch for that. I can vouch for that.
I love my familiar.
Goodness.
You don't even know.
I know. So a quick disclaimer: we are not taking anybody's familiar away. If you do not want to invest your points when this whole change rolls out, it's not like anybody who doesn't put their points into, I'll just call it like familiar handling. I don't know what it's gonna be called. But this skill that improves your familiar and their stats that they will probably have. If you don't invest points into that, we're not taking your familiars away from you. I'm hoping to have it blocked out as two separate systems, kind of. And we're gonna have familiar, your beast tamer, your invest points to make your familiar able to participate in combat and be better in combat for whatever kind of role you want them to have. As well as I want to call it a pet system. Basically, at the start of 3.0's release, with this specific mechanic going out, if you already had a familiar, it's kind of just going to be reclassified as a pet. And it's going to be vanity, obviously, with us rewarding SP investment for familiars in combat. They're not going to have any more combat bonuses or mechanical bonuses, but we're not stripping away your precious pets. Don't worry.
Not yet, at least.
My precious lion.
Oh, not yet. Oh,
Saki, no.
Shark, no.
Saki, no.
Whoops,
Please, no. I
wasn't
love my
supposed to say
lion
that.
boy. Yeah, damn. The thing is, I love my familiar so much because I finally found a personality that makes me love him all the time.
Aw, cute. Oh, familiar mastery. Thank you, Black. That's a good word for it.
That is a
Ooh,
really
and
good one.
also, speaking of like threads and topics that were meant to be mentioned 10 to 20 minutes ago, I'm doing a thread with the new player Black, and I think, in all honesty, if I ever want Hestia, I think I'm gonna have Hestia take him on as an apprentice if you'd be cool with that. Because by golly, I give him my tier 1 gear, and he's just, as he's been stating in the chat, he's been killing it with my weapon. It's a sword and steel with paralyzed enhancements on them. And he's been getting so freaking lucky with them. The point is, like, he's been like, yep, this sword, I want this sword.
Oh, so sorry. Yeah, skimming through, I see Black, speaking of him, mentioning in the chat, which kind of leads me back to 3.0 discussion and maybe kind of a question I want to pose to the community. He asked specifically about the need for a rank and curved sword in order to use the two-handed katana weapon. I understand where that rule came from as a canon mechanic. Katana required investment in curved sword. Now, I cannot confirm if we're removing that and making katana just kind of be its own thing. Maybe we will put a little bit more effort into it. We might keep the need for a katana acquisition thread or something, because the idea was it was supposed to be a little bit more rare than some of the other weapon types. I'm not positive one way or the other if we are removing that completely.
It's all TBD right now.
What is it?
TBD, to be determined.
I will say some sneak peek, we are bringing back a couple of weapon types that were previously removed.
And yeah, and I know a few people are gonna be very happy with these weapons coming back.
Yeah, although unfortunately they were removed so long ago, I'm pretty sure most of the people watching have no clue what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, most likely.
So I'll just come out and say it. A while ago we had Whip, and it was called Wild Dance, which were essentially claw weapons, not quite martial arts, but similar with a claw type weapon on your hands. Those were a couple of sword types and sword skills that we had, and those were previously removed. I believe the reasoning was because they were essentially copy paste versions of other sword art styles. They didn't have their own functionality, and
Yeah, at that time they just didn't fit well in the system.
Yeah, okay, claw now.
so bringing those back, they are definitely getting more attention in terms of the sword art list. So they'll have kind of more of their own niche, and as well as just the flavor. I'm sure a lot of people liked playing when it was around, liked playing with those types of weapons, just adding a different combat flair. So those will be coming back. But a question I wanted to kind of pose to the community, something that we have been thinking about in 3.0 development, is the original plan for sword art and one of the main combat overhauls was actually removing the energy system. We were looking at doing. We've been talking about putting sword arts on a cooldown system rather than having this extra resource to manage, and that comes with some pros and some cons. Obviously I can't go, I don't have the full details to go over, and it'd probably take too long.
It would take a long while.
Right, so I'll just give our reasoning behind doing that. I would argue that it makes it a little bit easier with removing the resource that you have to track. You wouldn't have to keep track of your energy anymore, and it would completely remove the whole energy cost concept of things. Although I can see how that balances out with, well, now I have to keep track of my cooldowns on my sword arts. Itzel has put a ton of work into expanding on sword arts in general. I think whether or not that change does go through, there's things like chain arts, where you can chain together different sword arts into something a little bit different, and really just giving a little bit more freedom in combat style and definitely in writing style. It also would alleviate one big thing, which is spamming your highest level sword art for each attack.
Hello, all the frontliners.
I think that was a major consideration in doing that. It basically gives people a reason and, in fact, a need to switch off of their highest level sword art and maybe fall kind of into some kind of a rotation, or seeing what's the most useful thing that they can do at the time with what they have on and off cooldown. So I kind of wanted to pose that to the community. I know, unfortunately, you don't have the full details in front of you, but just as a concept, like, what do you guys think about that? Do you like the energy system as it is? Do you think it's perfect? Are there other flaws in it that you would rather have addressed instead, or are you interested in putting sword arts and empowered attacks like that on a cooldown to balance the use of them in combat? What do you think?
And if you think that some things can be improved or changed or created, feel free to apply to the systems team. I know Itzel is looking for new members for his team in order to get more development done system-wise. And on that same note, we're also looking members for the lore development team, so go ahead and contact Arath if you're interested.
Also, if you're wondering why you always say it's too much to go into, just for context, the 3.0 Google Docs is like 150 pages.
Yeah,
that includes basically an overview and suggested tweaks and planned tweaks for every part of the system. So lots of notes, lots of discussion back and forth. Oh boy.
This is why we always say like, oh, we just need to do overviews when we try to discuss a new thing that we want to do to you guys, because it's a lot just for one topic each time.
Now, granted,
Yeah,
you gotta
so-
think that 3.0 has also been developed for what, 2 years now, 2.5.
Oof, a long
Sure.
time. It's changed hands, and in that time, it's completely different from what it first started out as. When Takao and Balder were the main people working on it, who were on the project before I was. The leveling system, I think, is the only thing that's kind of stood that test of time. Though
Mhm.
it has it's gone through some different drafts. It's not exactly the same. Um, and I think the crafting system, while it's not the same, it's similar to what it's the same kind of concept I think they were going for. It's been developed differently, but as it changes hands and it's got more people working on it, more ideas to throw around, and more discussion to make things as good as we can, it's evolved almost each and every time.
Mhm. I think one of the big things for 3.0 that has helped when you were a GM today, the fact that Itchel showed up.
Oh, he was and has been a massive driving force behind 3.0, to the point that I'm afraid it might have burned him out a bit. He did so much to it. I cannot praise him enough for how much effort he's put into 3.0 as a project. When I took over it, I had like 3 sections of the system that were like halfway in development. Itzel came on the systems team, started working on stuff, expressed interest in 3.0, and within, I think, a week, he had an entire document written up where he took community suggestions and discussion. He looked at every part of the rules as they are now and put them in a place for us to go over everything, what we'd like, what we don't like, what the community has told us that they want to see, and goodness, that guy has put in a lot of effort, so mad props to him.
Yeah, definitely having Itzel take over from that as in charge of systems was probably our better move, as he's worked hard and really shown that he cares for it.
But on that note of burnout, like you mentioned, Shark, always we could use more help. All the staff is volunteers, and with college and just life being a big part, we put what free time that we have into the site, but we could always use more heads. We could always use more ideas and more help. You said Itzel's the main point of contact for someone who wants to know more about the systems team, and what else was it that we were looking for?
The
Lore
plot
development
team
for
done
the
by
plot team.
Aerith.
Because right now there's only Aerith, Spencer,
Lessa.
and Lessa.
And Spencer. I forgot Spencer
Oh,
switched over.
He did switch teams from systems development to lore development. So if you guys have liked things like the murder mystery threads, if you want to see any more of that, they are a brand new section of staff and have much room to grow. So if you have any ideas for that, you want to contribute, you want to be a part of that, for sure, contact Era.
Yep.
Yeah, and basically,
Yeah, go ahead.
when it comes to the whole plot team thing, right now they're doing the murder mystery for the focus of it, but they have in mind already a stocked list of other plot things in mind, which is actually quite impressive.
And I'm sure they could use a hand with it, so.
Yeah, especially with the fact that Aerith could always need. I think realistically, as it is right now, try to make it at least balanced. Oh, I say quote unquote balanced. It's like maybe like a 4th or a 5th member, so that they can have ideas to know. Okay, if this person goes missing, this person fills in that slot. If that person goes missing, they fill in that slot, and like have that kind of system where they can post as need be as the plot master account in case someone goes off on
right.
vacation or life happens.
So,
So like,
go
oh,
ahead, keep
so-
going. You're good.
also,
I was gonna.
sorry, I
ask
just
you, Emil.
realized since we're talking about requirements for staff, the idea for a plot team member is to join the plot team. You basically need to show us that you can nail RPing amazingly. Well, good good enough, good enough. And you can do this by showing, say, threads you've done where you think you've done amazing with terms of like a story you've done, or present to Arif, the plot team guy, a plot in mind or story you've done or want to you have this idea in your mind, basically so that you can create plots, can write out thoughtful writings and stuff like that. Again, it might be hyperbolating a bit too much, possibly. But basically trying to so you have the skills necessary to do RPing enough for these plots to get them be amazing for the community. Like, good enough. Again, I'm trying to not hyperbole too much.
Yeah. In regards to what Neo said, do we have a more specific app for plot team yet? If you go into that interested in joining staff blog entry, and that lists all the different SAO-RPG staff teams, underneath floor development, there is floor lore and quest team, that's just floor creation, and then underneath there is plot team. And that's going to be the team that you want to see information for. Let's see here. So, moving on, we got another couple more things to talk about here before we start winding down the stream. For those of you who are new, or those of you who have been here a while and just forgot, quick update, we do have a Minecraft server. If you're interested in knowing more about that, like progress and wise, go ahead and feel free to message me. I can get you that information. And we are looking for devs for that, so if you're interested for that, contact me and we can get to getting you more information. So we have had a few questions come in, and over the course of the past week, one of them was a lot to talk about with the boss fight, with the unexpected direction. Well, we've already gotten most of that, but so Baldur has sent a couple that we've already discussed, and then Hazato or Hazard in the chat earlier today. What would you find easier to kill, a monster or a human? Hestia?
And by this I think he means like mob creatures. And when it comes down to it, I think it's always easier to kill a monster, because when it comes to human type mobs, you can RP them out, and in the case of Teion the boss, make them have emotions, feelings, goals, and ideals that can like trick the human mind just long enough to like be hesitant in character to actually strike them. It can create for interesting RP in terms of characters, like having to deal with humanoid enemies, to try to do it that kind of route.
One of Baldur's first question, actually, what have we learned from this fight and what will we take with us to the next one? I do actually have something to add to that. I mentioned that there's been a lot of takeaway from this fight, as floor 22 was my first experience with being involved in a boss fight or running them. One thing, I would like to quickly apologize to the frontliners. With floor 22, we had some shared ownership and management of the boss, but this one has been completely on me, and I realize I bit off more than I could chew. I'm trying my best to power through it without it taking ages, but I know that I have I feel like I'm probably disappointing some people with how slowly it's going, because floor clearing in itself is a really lengthy process. So I'm gonna try to power through it best I can. Thank you guys for being so patient with me, and I really hope the quality of it as it's come out so far, and by the time it ends and our wrap up of it, will be worth it. But that's something that I'm taking with me. I really will be reaching out for help. Hakoru was a big help with developing the floor 24 boss up to this point, and like I said, I believe he did some good work on the floor itself. So unfortunately with him stepped down, I will be looking for more help on running the fight, so I will have at least a solid backup so we can keep things moving at a good pace. And one last thing to chime in on that is, Rotations. Actually, Balder himself had given some good feedback and a suggestion to for a different way to handle boss rotations, partially from some of his old experience as staff when that system went into place, and I'm actually looking to implement that. So, kind of a sneak peek. I don't have anything in writing yet, and I plan on, properly drafting it up and having the rules around boss raid rotations change officially in between this fight ending and the next one starting. A little bit more chaotic on the surface, but I really believe it will help things run more smoothly. And that is to, rather than break up actions into each party going separately and having a boss turn in between that, we are looking at what he had proposed previously, which is essentially a boss's turn and then the player's turn. Now, party composition and party rules will stay the same. It's not just going to be a cluster of people that can all, there's not just going to be one tank amongst the entire raid.
Oh god, I'm just imagining someone trying to use like field medic on.
Oh jeez.
No, yeah, not so chaotic on the surface, but I think in the details of it, not that bad. And essentially, the boss will be designed to, of course, withstand the punishment from an entire raid group going in a single
Yeah.
rotation. They're just going to be designed differently so that they can handle that. And of course, they will have a number of actions corresponding to how many parties that there are. Like I said, all those rules are going to stay the same. But you could see like attacks going out to each different party. There's essentially going to be a lot going on the boss's turn, rather than breaking it up to, for every one player's turn, the boss gets 4 turns. I believe that this will help things run more quickly. At worst, you might a frontliner might be waiting a couple, 3 days maybe, depending on how we handle the timer of giving everyone to post. RP will be chaotic for sure, because you've got so many people posting at the same time. Pros and cons, but I think overall it's going to help them run smoother. People will have more to do, and they won't be waiting so long for their turn in the way that we have it now. We've just never had this many people attending a boss fight before, so that's a
And
big
they'll
takeaway
only
for me.
get bigger.
Right.
By the way, the mention in the chat, Twitch chat has been amazing.
Oh, I'm just tabbing over to it. You guys are so sweet.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
guys
was
are
gonna bring up that
fantastic. It's been
they
really
gave you
active.
all the support, Tay.
Oh, thank you guys so
And
much.
Zanj also mentioned that she liked the idea of the rotation system, which I had to agree with.
Awesome.
I like the idea of the rotation system when I was explained to it thoroughly. Because when I first heard of it, I felt like, wait, so you're saying all the players go, then the boss? And then I explained to it within more detail. It's like, oh, that makes more sense. I actually like this now.
Shoot, go ahead. I've lost my place. My brain stopped.
And okay, since I just answered the question now that Teion started, things we took away from the boss. Well, to begin with, I guess I'll start with Bialis, since I was one of the people that took one over one of the range for that. And I think
Sorry, Rain's unicorn boss.
shut up. Okay, so yeah, when I took over the reins for the Bialis fight, I think one of the major things I've learned right away was I think it was more so the fact that I thought to myself I had to live up to Teion's standards of posting. So I had to learn very quickly, like, okay, how do I RP actually good?
Oh goodness, don't even. It's like you mentioned with something like Death Adder, when one entity is changing hands and has to be role played out by more than one person. That's hard, or at least it definitely can be, especially if you are working between people who just naturally have very different writing styles.
Which
But
is evident between you and me right away.
uh,
I do third person. I do first. You do third person, and you write a freaking novel for every post.
hey, when it comes to the Bialis fight, there's only so many ways that I can write horse noises. So thank you for your help with that.
Always happy to allow my infinite muse to deal with the slog of a horse noise.
Oh goodness, and hopefully we can alleviate that in the future, because obviously not every boss is going to be a council of humanoid monsters with more emphasis on. I did not expect this to be as controversial as it ended up being, but with a hint at consciousness, that AI that will talk back to you or something like that. That's at least the impression I was going for. If Beta might have gotten out of hand a little bit, but this so Xandra asked to clarify if everybody with my proposal for the new way to handle raid rotations, if everybody will attack and there won't be a designated party order. That is correct. Keep in mind, I have nothing written down, so I plan to write all this up, formally submit it. Staff will review it as a whole, so it's going to go through all the checks and balances it needs to before becoming official. This is just the system as I have it in my head and how I want it to work, so we'll see if that's exactly how it ends up. But essentially, when it comes to the player's turn in that raid rotation, yes, chaotic, but otherwise there's not much of a difference of what we're doing right now, because otherwise we'd be giving group A 48 hours to post, or whatever the timer may be, and it gives it extends the player's turns by that many number of days. That's why I say RPing will be kind of difficult. Hopefully there will be enough out-of-character communication if somebody says, oh, I really want to interact with this player this turn, or, kind of get an idea of what they want to do out beforehand. So it might be a little less hectic, and I would unfortunately argue against, double posting in that area of time. But hopefully with things moving faster, you will get a chance to respond to somebody that might have gone after you in the rotation last turn, so there won't be such a huge gap in all the things that happened since your last turn.
And Zanja brought a point that I know Itzel likes to mention when you bring up this rotation system, Teion. The fact that there's a possibility of less personalized posting for people's actions. Because you didn't need that. Everyone's posting a lot, like 20 to 30 people, let's say. You can't acknowledge all 20 to 30.
Right, and that is, and I mean that is true even in the current boss fight. I've tried to get as much interaction out as I can, and definitely some posts were longer than others, as I tried to take everyone that either interacted with one of the characters directly to give them that response and acknowledge them as best that I could, or if I had a really good idea for something that I wanted to do to incite some interaction, I would poke at those players specifically. So that's kind of happening now, but I see what you mean. Hopefully I will, there won't be a novel written for every boss post, but I will try to, I'll be communicative with anybody else who is running the boss as well. We're not going to be able to reply to everything that happens and everyone, but that's kind of the case right now, so hopefully it'll just pan out well, really, is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be
To
interesting.
roll back to my answering the question. Because I only answered the part for Bialis. Now take away from Teion's boss.
Yeah, they were on such opposite spectrums as far as just the design of it.
When it comes to the takeaway, at least for myself and Itzel, since we usually work on things together, we kind of take away the idea of every boss able to communicate with players, but there will need to be at least some functionality for the idea of role-playing abilities as our term for it, like things that are meant to invoke and like prod at the players, be like opportunities you can do if you feel like it. It's kind of meant we've been be doing.
Mm-hmm. And to kind of mix those two questions, when it comes to takeaway from these boss fights and humanoid versus monstrous enemies and bosses, I will say, at least for the immediate future, I think this council may be, for now, the most complex when it comes to how they function and how they interact with players. I do feel like I might have gone a little bit overboard. I'm happy with where it ended up, but I need to be sure that it it's still a fact that you guys are fighting a monster. You guys are still fighting a programmed
Enemy.
enemy. Yeah, it's you're not actually fighting a bunch of players. So that was a good learning experience for me. I'm happy with how I kind of stirred things up a bit with it. But I think in the future, if we have, which I want us to, and I'm sure we will, have other humanoid bosses, they may not be quite as free thinking, or they may be a bit more limited in their responses. Maybe I don't have keep nothing in mind here. I have no boss concepts in front of me. But I think
Ew.
I think I would vote for that, at least, if it's of my design.
Yeah, when it comes to, again, takeaway for boss design, it's obviously taking the biggest route of like creating abilities for bosses to, even if they're like a beast and can't formally speak per se, they have like abilities meant to allow RP stuttering fun. Okay, so can actually have fun. Well, I myself enjoy the idea of the more humanoid bosses because by golly they're fun. And speaking of that, actually, in my free time, I've created eventually show to the rest of the staff when I feel like it's good enough in my eyes.
Oh, you were cutting out a bit there. You said you're designing or have designed was it a floor boss?
Floor. And I've worked with Itzel to make sure I could make it all good. With the boss, basically, with the boss. Okay, with the floor, I'm gonna go for the floor more so, because boss
Okay.
is. Yeah, with the floor's idea being like a musical style, because
That'd be interesting.
yeah, and I made sure to make sure everything is kind of music centric. It's might be like more like a chill kind of floor, with the boss being not anything I've seen so far that could be considered similar by any stretch of the.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's a theme I have not heard of before in the previous ones. For me, with Bionis being one side of the spectrum and the council being a complete other, I hope to strike a nice balance between those in the future. Any other monstrous bosses we want to keep from being a mindless hit it till it dies, as the term has been as the term has been thrown out. But
Yeah,
I
when
don't know.
it comes to
Sorry.
bosses, there's the whole hit it till it dies mentality, which was what the raid was becoming for the very shortest amount of time for one rotation. Then here did the thing.
And while I liked the mechanics that Biolis had in it, of course, with the council being something that I had been working on longer, there are so many mechanics in this fight, and I'm a fan of being transparent. When it at least in the aftermath, I find that the drastic turn that the raid has taken and this kind of like almost like alternate ending kind of thing actually ends up fitting. You guys aren't with how things are playing out. You guys aren't actually going to see an entire different mechanic that I had planned out in a certain situation. So
Yeah.
So with me playing behind the scenes, I feel like having designed this boss to have things that trigger on so many different outcomes, I kind of like that it ended up this way because even though I could have never planned for it, it kind of fits. Like I want to think that the design of this boss, even in the video game, um, it's just a fight that could have multiple resolutions to it. So that kind of ended up taking an interesting turn that luckily fit with the design as a whole when looking at it.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's about time to start wrapping this up. I do want to say a giant thank you to everyone who came here and watched and interacted with us. I will say that if you did like this and would like to be on the show, we will accept call-ins next episode. So there is a call-in section on the Discord underneath the podcast area. So if you're interested in asking us questions and seeing if we want to debate live on the show, then please feel free to hop in that voice channel. If we see you, we'll pull you in. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to make sure this is heard before. Awesome. We enjoy getting as many questions as we can to answer thing. So make sure to send as many as you can think of, and we'd happily answer anything that we get sent to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I do make notifications or ask for questions about a week in advance. So if you have any for the next episode, stay tuned to that status update by me, as well as post in the podcast corner, which is the blog section that I created for up-to-date information regarding the podcast. So stay tuned to the weekly link. If you want more information of anything that we discussed today, feel free to message us and we can get you that information. Until then, stay tuned to the site calendar and information posted in the Discord as well as on the site, and pay attention to when we're live next. I'm thinking about doing a gaming event tonight, so if you're interested in that, message me and we'll take it from there. Any final shout outs, guys?
Just thank you, everyone. Thank you again to our donors who keep the site running. And thanks to everybody who is participating. I've seen the community grow and evolve, and the amount that people get invested is always inspiring. So I love to see all the new people and all the old people pushing on with new stories. It's great. I love it. Love you guys. Thank you.
And for myself, as Sark said, pay attention to the weekly link. Feel free to send questions to there, or to Sark when he makes the thing about it. Or you can send me questions if you feel like it. I'll make sure to write them down for the next podcast. Hestia, signing out of the game.
Bye bye.
I was never right for the hero type of role. I admit.
Nice.
With my heart,
You're at the party we don't know what's happening till you tell us. When it's too late.
So I think that went well.
I think so too. I think I enjoy when we go off on little tangents and stories. It makes it more fun. Yeah.
There was definitely some discussion. I guess if anything, I mean, it's hard to give criticisms when I wasn't just listening to it. We bounce back and forth a bit, but I think that can't be helped sometimes.
Because when something gets brought up that's like actually relevant to the thing, but not relevant to the entire topic.
Yeah, we didn't get completely off topic, which I thought was great. Like any tangents were still like site related and relevant to at least some discussion that was going on during the whole thing. That was great.
The only thing that was slightly saddening is not having the Balder, Macroground, or not being here.
Oh, I would have loved to have them asking.
Oh, we know
questions.
Neo. So I mentioned that. Neo brought up in the podcast chat that they can still hear us.
On the Twitch stream?
Yes, and I told her that.
Both of them.
Dark said that.
Oh, oof, I thought you said you were just playing music. Oh,
I am.
guess
I said
should
they can
stop
still hear
talking
us.
smack.
Stop talking smack. Listen,
Oh, well, here are our end of podcast notes, guys. What an exciting section.
you get to hear all the background stuff as staff. Isn't that fun?
That's always
Seen
fun.
the-
It's called the backstage access.
Exactly.
This is the part where we say, is this impromptu karaoke? Is that what I...
Yo, if that's what we're doing, I'm down for it. You know I love karaoke.
I know, I got Hestia so excited.
You know I love karaoke. You can't deny me this. Wait, what? Need I see to get kill or something? I'm so confused, Zato. Are you threatening me? Am I being threatened now?
I guess so. They're starting to threaten us everywhere. They
Welcome
don't like,
to
they
die.
might not like hearing us
So-
talk afterwards.
Where's the meme where he says like, is this a threat? You look at the glasses like pointing to the butterfly, it's like, is this a threat? And the person's Zato there.
I saw one of those earlier today from Monster Prom, and it's got the space prince, and he goes, "Is this a love interest?"
Yeah, I get it. Wait, sorry, do you know what Monster Prom?
A little bit, not a whole lot of it.
Oh, it's amazing!
Highly recommend. Good laughs.
Space Prince is best character. Meanwhile,
For
Holly's best waifu, Prince best character.
For anyone who has no clue what we're talking about, totally not sponsored. No, Hestia and I have just played a game before called Monster Prom on Steam. Essentially multiplayer dating sim, but it's actually pretty good.
Please note, don't be dick, ruins friendships.
Alright guys, later.